Up 5-2 in the bottom of the ninth inning, Camilo Doval comes in again, and again he blows the save for the second consecutive night. I think his fourth consecutive blown save. And so, man, were things looking ugly there. And this would have been just a catastrophic loss for the Giants. But they got through that bottom of the ninth without the Phillies scoring the winning run. And they scrapped, they fought, they clawed, and they had their grittiest win and their best win and their most important win of the year.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're listening today. Download the Bunches app today, and when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description below to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today, where you can chat with people like me and all the other Locked On hosts. And coming up on today's show, what a ball game. What a ball game yesterday for the Giants. Playoff vibes, chills in a way, like in that they pulled it off. It would have been tears as opposed to chills if they had lost that game, and it was looking like they probably would after Camilo Doval gave up a 3-run homer in the ninth. Walk homer. Like, yesterday I was critical of Doval for not throwing a slider, but he threw sliders yesterday, and that wasn't working either. And I think the home run that Harper hit was on a slider. And so he's just something's out of whack with Camilo Doval right now. Hard to be overly critical of him given how good he's been these last couple of years, but obviously they're going to need him down the stretch. But just the scrappiness to be able to overcome that. I thought once they got out of that ninth inning with the game still tied, that I just had a feeling. Like, the feeling was, and I feel like Hunter Pence was all over this. As a former player in Pence, I feel like he gets this in a way that you don't really get if you didn't play. I didn't play nearly at that kind of level, but I did play baseball. I stunk. Like, I wanted to play more, but hitting is really hard. I talked about this on my YouTube live the other day. I put a lot of effort into trying to improve as a hitter, and hitting is really hard, even at the high school level. And so these guys, what they do is incredible. But I don't even remember where I was going with that, to be honest with you. But the Giants, they scrapped and they fought and they clawed in that 10th inning. I just had a feeling, as like a former player in Pence, saying basically if they could pull out a win after a gut-punching 3-run homer in the ninth to tie it, that would go just such a long way for team morale, belief in themselves, and just, I mean, the polar opposites that could have been after this game. Like, if they lose, it is a funeral on this show today. Like, we're talking things are not looking good. We're talking playoffs are not looking likely. This was just such a swing. Whereas, hey, still all the other teams basically around them, except the Marlins in the standings, won yesterday. The Reds had a doubleheader and they won both of their games. And so it's a little frustrating when you pick up a win and everybody else does too. But on the flip side, you have to think about if you didn't win, you would have lost a game to all those teams. And so, you've got to think about it that way. But the fact that they did pull this game off, and Paul DeJong, we're going to spend a whole segment talking about Paul DeJong and the huge, I mean, that's a total understatement, not just spark, but just impact that he made on this game, and what a lift that can be for a team that has frankly had poor production out of the shortstop position all season. So I will also address some of the feedback I got about DeJong is that I'm being hypocritical because I said they shouldn't trade for him. That's not exactly how I put it, but we'll discuss that a little. I will explain why right now he's an excellent fit for the Giants, but that he wasn't necessarily at the time of the trade deadline. But man, what a shot in the arm he was yesterday. So anyway, the Giants with their 10th inning comeback, 3 runs. They put up 3 runs in the 10th. A walk by Patrick Bailey. Then what happened? A hit by pitch, Wade Meckler, bases loaded, nobody out, and then DeJong. We'll save that whole conversation for a minute. DeJong had a single, and then there was this crazy sac fly play where DeJong was doubled up, but Wade Meckler, Wade Meckler's legs impacted this game in a huge way. And so for everyone who wanted him sent to the minors, I got a lot of people complaining when they optioned Elliot Ramos as opposed to Meckler in my Twitter mentions. But, he struggled for 7 games, and I don't think we can judge him that quickly. And I think he showed yesterday what he could do. He showed it off defensively in the 9th. He showed it off with his legs running the bases in the 10th, and he was hitting. And so just so many positives to ultimately take away from this game, and it was just so needed. And so I'm just going to quickly give you an update on the standings and the playoff odds, as I like to do. I went to the minor league page by accident. So the standings, as I continue to say, the West is over. The Giants are 11.5 back. But in the wild card, same as it was yesterday, the Giants are half a game back, but they're bunched up with 4 teams within half a game. So, if they win today and the Cubs, Reds, and D-backs lose, the Giants will leapfrog all of them and be the second wild card team. Well, actually, the Giants don't play today, so never mind. It'll depend. If those other teams do play, then that will affect where the Giants stand. But half a game back, you can live with that. It's when you start falling 2, 3, 4, 5 plus games back that it becomes a serious problem. And they're gaining a little bit of separation from Miami, who's now 2 back of a playoff spot, 1.5 back of the Giants. So quickly, the playoff odds, which briefly dipped below 50% for the first time in 2 months yesterday, according to Fangraphs. Today, as of right now, 52%. We are back. It is not a huge difference. It was 47%. But hey, from 47 to 52, we'll take it. And so now it is, according to Fangraphs, more likely than not that your San Francisco Giants will be a playoff team. I get it. It's 50-50. And I get it. This is a computer simulation and not real life. But it's what we talk about on this show. So there you have it. Coming up in just a minute, the impact of Paul DeJong and why I wasn't saying, yes, absolutely go out and trade for this guy no matter what. But as of now, he's the perfect player at the perfect time for the San Francisco Giants. So we will get into more of that discussion in just a minute. And before we do, I want you to know that this episode is brought to you by Bunches. Locked On Giants fans, I have to tell you about a new app called Bunches. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you can chat sports in real time. Go to the Apple Store and download Bunches now. I'm telling you, you're going to love the conversations and connections with other Locked On Giants fans. Bunches is the place where sports fans chat. The Locked On MLB group chat is on Bunches, and there I am. I am there. I just sent out a post right before this episode. Go there now and connect with other baseball fans, chat your favorite team, trash talk the team that you're beaten up on in a particular game, and keep up with the latest MLB news. A lot going on in that regard right now. So chat about your team every day. Join me in the Bunches chat. Download the Bunches app today, and when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description below to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. All right, as promised, Paul DeJong. Are there only like two people who actually were giving me a hard time about this? Perhaps. But I'm going to explain the whole situation and also just discuss what an impact he made on this game. My goodness, what a debut for Paul DeJong. Like, if they have whoever else they would have had out there, I guess Johan Camargo, they probably lose yesterday. And so, give them one WAR. That is not how it works, but it was a big day for Paul DeJong. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we're going to be getting into some new mailbag questions. I've got a lot of old ones left over. I will look through those and see which ones are still relevant. The problem is I go too slowly. I get like 50 questions and I mean to get to like 10 to 15 of them or 15 to 20 of them. And I only end up getting to like 4 or 5. And so I've got to be better at that, but I'll look through and keep the relevant, because some of them lose relevance because stuff changes. But also stuff has changed now, and so I'm going to be putting out a new prompt. So just FYI, look out on Twitter tonight for that. The Giants, by the way, they play the Braves, the best in baseball Braves, on Friday at 7:15 Pacific, and you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast. With SiriusXM on the SXM app, search Giants. Great pitching matchup. Spencer Strider against Logan Webb. That's one of the best matchups of the season for any team, and specifically, certainly for the Giants. So anyway, Paul DeJong, he was a guy who, when we were talking trade deadline, which was a major topic of this show for weeks and months, and then, of course, they did literally almost nothing. They got AJ Pollock and Mark Mathias. It's hilarious. Like, it's content, like that's what you all want to hear about. And so I deliver it. But at the same time, like, sometimes the answer should just be, hey, they may do nothing at all. And we're going to spend 2 months talking about this, if not more. But Paul DeJong was brought up a lot. And my answer, as I recall it, whenever he was brought up, I kept saying, I feel like they need someone who's more versatile because Paul DeJong is just a shortstop. And at the time, Brandon Crawford was healthy. And so obviously the Giants, was Brandon Crawford healthy? I think he was close to coming back. And you also had Tyro Estrada close to coming back. And so I was saying, like, that's why I was into Tommy Edman, because he could play short if needed. He could play second. He could play third. He could play left, center, and right. So someone like that obviously is a great fit. But for DeJong, he's just a shortstop. He's played a tiny bit of second base in his career, but primarily a shortstop, and for good reason, because he's good defensively there. But once Crawford is like healthy, it kind of becomes an issue. And part of the issue is like loyalty to Crawford. And like, DeJong is not like a superstar. And so are you going to displace your franchise icon shortstop Crawford with a player whose overall track record is more that of like a mediocre player than that of a star? And to me, the equation came out to no, but that was all assuming Crawford came back and was healthy. And we also got a glimpse. Was there somebody else, not Schmidt, not Camargo, not Mathias? I feel like there was somebody else who got some looks there, but Crawford has just continued to struggle. Like, to me, he looks just kind of done at this point, frankly. And it could have to do with the injuries he's obviously dealing. He's had a knee issue that's lingered for a couple years. Now he's got left forearm inflammation or a forearm strain, which is a weird injury. Given he throws with his right hand, it's odd to have strained that left forearm. Must be from hitting, I guess. But, he's getting up there in age. Paul DeJong is a good 6.5 years younger. I believe Crawford is 36.5-ish or something like that. But Paul DeJong just turned 30. And so you're getting, we talk about younger and more athletic. That was a huge theme of last season. And making the move now, Crawford is over 36.5. And DeJong just turned 30. But what did I say that DeJong brought to the table? I said he's not a star. He's more mediocre than that, but he's a really good defensive shortstop, and he has power, and he's a major leaguer. Like, he's not some guy who's going to come up here and be overwhelmed and potentially just be dreadful. And I think the floor of defense, which we saw, he put all of those skills on display. Slow heartbeat in the bases loaded situation in the ninth, in an 0-2 count in extra innings after you've just blown a lead like that. Bases loaded, 0-2 count. We've seen the Giants strike out in that situation way too many times this year. Way too many times in a lifetime. Just this year alone, it seems. But instead, in an 0-2 count, DeJong just lines a single that scores 2 runs and gets the runner from first to third in Meckler, once again impacting the game with his speed. And so we saw the slow heartbeat, and that's just kind of me saying the major leaguer in him. Because, you throw out a Casey Schmidt in there, and I'm not saying he won't ever be a major leaguer, but you get a little bit antsy and you start chasing. We've seen that from Schmidt, right? And from DeJong, you're just not like... They made a great point on the broadcast. Every year, the Cardinals, except this year, have been in contention and made the playoffs and all that. And so he has been through pennant races over and over and over. And so I loved that component of it. He didn't look fazed at all by that situation. And then he hit a rocket home run in his first at-bat, was it? It may have been his second at-bat. But yeah, I think it was his second at bat. But a home run that was huge. This game was ultimately close for a lot of it. Well, I guess in the ninth, like, the Phillies got their 3 runs, so you needed the 5 in order to have them not win the game on that home run. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Obviously, hitting a home run is huge. I'm just not remembering off the top of my head if there were guys on base. I think there was a guy on base, but you saw the home run. You saw the slow heartbeat, bases loaded situation. You saw defensively, he made a really nice kind of backhanded play that required then a spin and a throw to second where they got an out. And it's not going to make like the total highlight reel. It's not going to get written about too much or talked about too much. But a play like that is enormous. And so, again, I'm not out here saying, therefore, Paul DeJong is a star and he's going to carry him to the postseason. What I will point out, I hope I made it clear, like, the fact that Crawford is injured makes him like such a better fit than if Crawford was not injured. Even if I think DeJong is better than Crawford at this point, it's awkward. And they haven't shown that they're just going to like bench Crawford, basically. So, the last thing I wanted to say is that I had a vibe of Cody Ross. 2010 Cody Ross, Giants pick him up off waivers, I think it was, from the Marlins. And he joins the team, gets hot down the stretch, and carries them into the World Series and to a World Series championship, NLCS MVP. And it's crazy because Cole Kuiper tweeted out like Paul DeJong NLCS MVP confirmed or something like that. And then I said, that's crazy because I had the Cody Ross thought came into my head. And then what was even crazier is that on yesterday's broadcast, they show a clip or whatever, graphic, that it was on that day in Giants history that they picked up Cody Ross. And so I guess technically it was the day before that they picked up Paul DeJong. But still, the timing, the immediate impact, the fact that the game was in Philadelphia where Ross hit those home runs, Cody Ross, in the NLCS, and DeJong hit a home run. Weird. Kind of weird stuff. And good omens. And I feel like the vibes are really, really good coming off this game, and they would have been really, really bad if they hadn't won. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, a little more to get to about some defense, and how about the Slater haters. And I'm going to not do a victory lap because I get it. The balls weren't hit hard, but we're going to discuss Austin Slater and Wade Meckler's defense and how it saved the Giants in the ninth. But before we do, I want you to know that this episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Sleeper. Do you want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Sleeper's now offering up to a 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like, and simply pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. I keep saying this, but do you think Wilmer Flores is going to hit another home run? He just did again yesterday. Smash more on homers. Do you think with Spencer Strider facing the Giants on Friday that you maybe want to take the over on the strikeouts is kind of my advice to you. Strider's the best strikeout pitcher in the game. It'll be fascinating to see what the over-under is, but almost no matter what it is, I might take the over with Strider and with the Giants' strikeout tendencies. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's that easy. They also have safe and fast withdrawals. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, as promised, some defense. Something that has, this year the Giants' defense has been pretty good, but they made some spectacular plays that saved them in the ninth inning, and kind of gets me thinking about Meckler's impact and how it's 2 examples of guys that too many fans, in my opinion, were ready to give up on based on small samples. I just don't get it. It's like we never learn that small samples in baseball don't mean much. Will we ever learn that? Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow on the show, a mailbag edition of the show, as the Giants are off today. And then they're home to face the Braves. They play the Braves at 7:15 Pacific on Friday. Logan Webb versus Spencer Strider. Great matchup. You can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Giants. So yeah, this is like a tale of 2 players whom many fans on Twitter, that's the thing, I'm on Twitter too much, and maybe a lot of you aren't on Twitter, and so none of you are even thinking any of this stuff, but it's there on Twitter, and it permeates into my brain, and it makes me talk about it. And I think a lot of you are on Twitter, so you're seeing the same stuff, so it's relevant to a lot of you, but I hope it's not too irrelevant to too many of you. But basically, I don't think this is a hot take to say. I've seen like a lot of legit, Giants reporters, whatever you want to call them, like media members, kind of my peers in a sense, basically implying that there's something wrong with Slater and that you consider making some kind of move with him. And he was something like 0 for 30. Was it between 0 for 25 and 0 for 30? He hadn't had a hit since I think it was July 21st until yesterday, August 23rd. So that is obviously bad and a long time. I'm not sitting here telling you, oh yeah, that's fine, no problem. It's obviously not good, but the data is that slumps probably exist, but that we don't really know when they're slumps versus when it's just kind of like random, that guys are making lots of outs, that they're making their outs in bunches. And this has been studied, and I think a lot of people's reaction is going to be like, use your eyes. You could just tell he's out of whack. Okay, he's out of whack until he's suddenly not. These are the best baseball players in the world. They don't just suddenly, I mean, sometimes it happens, I guess, but they very often, like, they're so skilled and talented that at any given moment, they are capable of putting off a good swing and doing what they've done over a much larger body of work than the most recent 30 plate appearances. I'm sorry. It factors into my mind. Slater's been struggling, but every time they send him up there in an important situation, I'm like, go for it. Like, I have no problem with it whatsoever. A lot of you probably disagree, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. But they did it again yesterday, and it paid off. And it was a bloop, but nonetheless, Austin Slater turned on a really inside pitch, I think it was a fastball, and just muscled it into left for a run. And this was an aggressive move by Kepler, which, again, I loved. Runner on second. There were 2 outs at the time. You're taking out Michael Conforto and bringing in Austin Slater, who's been struggling big time. So it's just like, trust the process, stick to the process. Don't make panic moves and change your whole belief system based on a small sample in the game of baseball. And they send up Slater. I'm not lying. I'm not a puppet. If you call me a puppet, I will block you on Twitter. Like, I've had it up to here with people who say stuff like that. But I do trust the process. I do sound like Kepler in this regard. And they sent him up there, and he got a hit. Maybe Conforto would have hit a homer, but Slater got a hit. It drove in the 5th run, and that run was critical. Imagine if it was 4-2 going to the 9th. That home run by Harper would have ended the game. And so there you have it. And then Slater had another bloop hit later on. So yes, they were bloops, but sometimes bloop hits is what it takes to get it going. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got it going. He's not a hitter who's just going to go 0 for his life. He did not forget how to hit. So let's cool it a little bit with the Slater slander. So also Meckler. A lot of people were done with him after 7 games, and a lot of people coming at me saying it should have been Elliot Ramos who who stayed, and Meckler optioned when Ramos was sent out. And I was really blunt, and I said, they won't say it. And so it's kind of it's no fan's fault for not understanding this, because the team isn't like straightforward with this for good reason. I understand why they don't say it. But the fact of the matter is, with guys like Elliot Ramos and Joey Bart, they simply don't believe that they're going to have much success in the major leagues. That is obvious to me at this point. They're not just like, they don't just treat every single prospect this way. It is in particular, and it's probably based on like, they have StatCast stuff in AAA, so they can see, how they're hitting the ball, what kind of angles, what kind of spin, how hard they're hitting it, and then their strike zone awareness and swing decisions. It's not just scouting anymore. That's part of it, but they have all that, and it gives them a pretty good projection for major league performance. And I'm quite confident the projection they have for Elliot Ramos is just not very good. And so that's why he was optioned. And for Meckler, I think he's a much better prospect than Elliot Ramos. And therefore, he stayed. And it turns out the 7 games weren't necessarily indicative of his talent in the same way as Slater, right? Because same exact thing where, I mean, I'm not saying he might be terrible, but 7 games isn't enough to know so. And for Slater, he might have forgotten how to hit, but 30 plate appearances isn't enough to make that determination at all, especially in Slater's case when there's a long track record dating back before that where he's been one of the best hitters in baseball against left-handed pitching. And for Meckler, I think there's just a lot of tools there that haven't really come out, but they came out yesterday. Had 2 hits, drew a walk, got hit by a pitch, made an impact on the bases, and made a diving catch in the 9th, as did Austin Slater. That's another skill of Austin Slater's, by the way. So I just don't get it. Like, have a little more faith in these guys, in my opinion, and patience. Like, in baseball, you need like hundreds of plate appearances to really make a determination about guys, not 7 or 14 or whatever, or 30. I'm talking hundreds, okay? So that's my opinion. I have data to back that up. And I think yesterday it kind of came through. And we saw that just because they had been struggling doesn't mean in their next at-bat or their next game that they will continue to struggle. And that's why you keep running them out there. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, a mailbag edition. Look out on Twitter for the prompt, but we'll also use some of the old ones that are left over. So if you asked a question and you're waiting on me to answer it, I very well may get to it tomorrow. Giants play the Braves at 7:15 Pacific on Friday. You can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Giants. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a ton, so thank you in advance. And thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.